Josh Mertens, and I'm with Endurance Aviation. And we're going to continue our study of Daniel. Where we left off is Daniel has now exited the training and has now entered into the king's service as a wise man or a part of the king's court. Nebuchadnezzar has just had a terrible dream, has a very supernatural dream, and he recognizes that this dream has meaning, this dream is real, shocking to him, and he just wants to know the interpretation. So he calls all of the wise men, the top wise men of Babylon, the Chaldeans, and all these mystics and all these people that should give him the interpretation of the dream. And he brings them over. And he relays it to him I want to know the interpretation of the dream. But I want you to tell me what my dream was. And of course, the mystics and the wise men are thrown off by this. And they flat out admit that no human, no man on earth can give the interpretation of someone else's dream and relay the dream to them. And they kind of go into a whole lot of fancy words, maybe saying this is not of mortal flesh. This is something only the gods, small g, can do. And they're really thrown off by this, and they're like, hey, we can't do this. And Nebuchadnezzar is like, all right, I want to know what the dream is, the interpretation of the dream. And if you do this for me, I'll put you up as the ruler of Babylon. We'll give you tens of houses of gold and all this stuff. But if you can't, I will have you torn limb from limb and your house be made a rubbish heap. And they just can't do it. And they tell him that we can't do this. This is not possible. And he becomes furious, and he comes and he calls for the captain of the guard. And he is just so furious. He's like, kill all the wise men of Babylon. I want them all dead and just all gotten rid of. And the captain of the guard, of course, because what Nebuchadnezzar says goes. And he's like, all right. He sets off, and Daniel hears about this. And of course, Daniel, being a wise man, is like, why? What's going on? I've just been woken up. What's going on with this? And he's kind of made friends. He's known around, and he goes to the captain of the guard, and he asks, why is this so urgent? Why are we, why is the king so mad? And he relays to him, the king has had a dream. He wants to know not only what the dream is, but he wants to know the interpretation of it. And since the wise men weren't able to do it, we're supposed to kill everyone. And Daniel says, okay, give me some time. I'm going to go to God, and I'm going to pray, and I'm going to just ask for a little bit of time. And he, Daniel's obviously built up a relationship with this person to the fact where, again, another person is going to go out on a limb for Daniel, and he's like, all right. So Daniel goes to his three friends, and they all sit together, and they all start praying, and dutifully praying, asking God, hey, we would like to be delivered from this. We'd like to know the interpretation. We'd like, please God, save us. And in the night vision, it comes to Daniel, and Daniel is made known what the dream is and what the interpretation is. And right away, he goes up and goes to the captain of the guard, and he's like, I know the interpretation. I know the dream. Bring me before the king. And he does. And it's immediate, right away. Because again, Nebuchadnezzar is given out an order to kill all the wise men. Get rid of them. I want this done now. So everything is kind of going quickly in some aspects. So he brings him before the king. And I really like how... Because Nebuchadnezzar is an evil man, And what I just kind of found out recently through some of my research is that when Nebuchadnezzar took over Israel, he had Jehoiakim, which is the king of Judah, taken before him, had his whole family in front of him, executed his whole family, and then put out the eyes of Jehoiakim. So the last thing that he saw was his whole family being killed, executed. So, not a nice guy, not a guy that's, by any means a godly man or anything. Whatever he says goes. He's in charge. Absolute power is in Nebuchadnezzar's hands at this time. And Daniel's rushed before him. And he says, "O king, live forever. I have had the..." And he makes it super clear that it's no man is able to give you the interpretation. It is not me. God has relayed the interpretation to me to give to you. And, I kind of really want to focus on the fact that, this is a time where Daniel could have easily taken credit. Because he easily have been delivered and then taken all the credit to himself. But he didn't. He made, it goes for several verses of, "It is not me, no mortal man could do this. It is only God who is able to give me your dream and give me the interpretation of the dream to you." And the dream kind of goes into future events, and it's kind of future, but it's also present. And it goes into the statue dream, and the head is of gold, which represents Nebuchadnezzar and Babylon, and then the chest of silver goes into Persia, and then as it goes further down, it goes into lesser quality metal, but also stronger. And then the feet, it goes to iron, and then iron and clay, where parts of it is strong and parts of it is brittle. And then got a rock that is taken out without hands, is tossed toward it and destroys it. And this big, huge mountain is made up out of it. And this is representative of the eternal kingdom that is to come. And it's towards the end of it is that only God puts kings forward, and only God gives authority on heaven and on earth. And, that's kind of, I'm not really trying to focus on the dream and its interpretation of it, because it's future events. And I mean, it's kind of nice. It's kind of nice to know that, ultimately, God's kingdom is going to come and it's going to be established. And, God raises up kings and rulers, and God deposes them. He put Jehoiakim, king of Judah, into power. It was God's sovereignty that put him into power. It was also God's sovereignty that put Nebuchadnezzar, a very, very evil man, into power and caused him to overtake Jehoiakim. So my point is that God is ultimately in control of what's going on, who our rulers are, and Daniel realizes that. And very interestingly enough, Nebuchadnezzar also realizes that, as your God is more powerful and he is the one true God. Skip over into the next chapter, we're going to find out that, he thought that for a little bit, and then his pride took over again. And it's a very long road, and I do believe that, I'm kind of getting sidetracked right now. But the point is that Daniel was faithful, gave all the credit to God in a time where his life was on the line, his friends' lives were on the line, and he could have easily taken credit, but he gave all the credit to God. He made sure that all the credit went to God. And that's kind of the staple of his life, is that he, number one, goes to God in times of crisis. He immediately says, when he's confronted with this problem, I'll think about that. No, I'm going to go and pray to God right away, and because he is the one that's going to deliver me from that. And then secondly is that he immediately gives all the credit to God for delivering him, and was able to, and Daniel was promoted right away. He was promoted immediately to the ruler of Babylon itself, and the ruler of the city of Babylon, not the Babylonian Empire. He promoted extremely and given a bunch of wealth. So it's important that we realize that no matter what happens, that we give all the credit and honor to God, because he is ultimately deserving of it. Thank you for listening.